Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Politics on the Hindu's YouTube channel with me, Nistula Hebbar, the political editor of the paper. As you know, Talking Politics is kind of a show that takes a peek behind the stories making the headlines in domestic politics. I am back after a break of about a fortnight. I had an eye operation, as I told you earlier, but now I'm back. Let's hope my eye stays good and we don't have any other diversions in between. Now, this week, it was a very, very, very eventful week. Now, a fire at the home of a Delhi High Court judge, now transferred to the Allahabad High Court, Justice Verma, led to a renewed attempt by the government, some parties of the opposition, and mostly Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, to resuscitate the now defunct National Judicial Accountability Bill/Act, because it had been passed by Parliament, that lays down the procedure for the executive to have more of a say in judicial appointments. So what is this push all about? Why has it come out at this point of time after basically being in deep freeze since 2015? Now, this is the subject of this week's episode of Talking Politics. Now, let's start with what I term the trigger event. On March 14th, a fire broke out at Justice Verma's residence in Delhi, and allegedly large amounts of cash were found at the spot. After the news broke of the recovery of this unaccounted cash on March 14th and 15th, the Supreme Court Collegium convened and proposed Justice Verma's transfer to his parent High Court in Allahabad. The next day, the Supreme Court clarified that the proposal to transfer was independent and separate from the in-house inquiry procedure. CJI, Chief Justice of India Sanjeev Khanna, also asked the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, D.K. Upadhyay, to file a report regarding the allegations against Justice Verma. In the report that he filed soon after, Chief Justice Upadhyay noted that the entire matter warranted a deeper probe. After this, Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna then constituted a 3-member committee to investigate the allegations against Justice Verma of the Delhi High Court. The members of this inquiry committee were Justice Sheel Nagu, who is the Chief Justice of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, Justice G.S. Sandhawalia, Chief Justice Himachal Pradesh High Court, and Justice Anu Shivaraman, Judge of the Karnataka High Court. Notably, the Supreme Court's 25-page internal inquiry report was published on Saturday and on their website and included pictures and a video of burnt currency notes allegedly found at Justice Verma's residence. Now, Justice Verma, in his response, has denied all the allegations. He wrote, and I quote, "I state unequivocally that no cash was ever placed in that storeroom either by me or any of my family members, and I strongly denounce the suggestion that the alleged cash belongs to us. The very idea or suggestion that this cash was kept or stored by us is totally preposterous. The suggestion that one would store cash in an open, freely accessible and commonly used storeroom near the staff quarters or in an outhouse verges on the incredible and incredulous." He also wrote that the allegations against him were based on mere innuendos and an unproven assumption and had scarred his reputation. Now, while all this was going on, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, as chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, spoke out in the House over the issue not once, but many times. Without mentioning NJAC, he did make references to it. For example, and again I quote here, he said, "Keeping in mind dignity, in 2015, this House made a law." This is a specific reference to NJAC without mentioning NJAC. That constitutional structure that emanated unanimously with one abstention from the Parliament, endorsed by state legislatures, should be the rule of law because it was certified by the President by appending signatures under Article 111. Now is the befitting occasion for all of us to reiterate that. This is a statement from Vice President Dhankar on March 25th. He added, because that was a visionary step endorsed by Parliament. Imagine if that had taken place, things would have been different. Honorable members of parliament, I seek your suggestion on a very important point. What emanated from the Indian parliament with a historic development, with rare convergence of unity since independence, found acceptance by state legislatures. We need to reflect what happened to that. Now, he also held a meeting with the leader of the House, J.P. Nadda, that is leader of the House in the Rajya Sabha, and his opposition counterpart, Mallikarjun Kharge. And both these people, incidentally, happen to be presidents of their respective parties. And a decision to speak to every party as a renewed push for reviving NJAC was also taken. Now, this brings us to what Justice NJAC. Now, NJAC's full form is the National Judicial Appointments Committee. As per the Constitution of India, Article 124, the Supreme Court judges should be appointed by the President after consultation with such judges of the High Courts and the Supreme Court as the President may deem necessary. The CJI is to be consulted in all judicial appointments except his or her own. Again, Article 217 says High Court judges should be appointed by the President after consultation with the CJI and the Governor of the state. The Chief Justice of respective High Courts concerned too should be consulted. Now, it is on the word consultation that hangs the whole tale of the appointment of judges via the government or the executive branch or the collegium system which exists at the moment. And that is the judiciary itself. Now, the change from the executive, I would say that from 1991 onwards, the system changed from executive involvement in the appointment of judges to a collegium system. This change happened because of what is termed the three judges ruling by the Supreme Court. The first such ruling was in 1981, where the word concurrence was debated rather than consultation. Consultation means you ask somebody for their opinion. In this case, the president would ask CJI, etc., or members of the judiciary for their opinion on appointments. And whether that consultation bound the president or not was the question. Would the appointment be made with just consultation, or does that word consultation actually mean concurrence with the agreement? Okay, so in 1981, this was debated. Here, the Supreme Court said that it's not, it's just a consultation, and it did not mean concurrence, and the President of India, in consultation but not bound by advice, could appoint judges. In the second judge's case of 1993, the Supreme Court overruled its earlier verdict and changed the meaning of consultation to concurrence. The President of India would be bound for consultations with the Chief Justice of India. This resulted in the birth of the collegium system. The third judge's case of 1998 is the one that reflects the current form of the collegium of four senior-most judges of the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of India. And even if two judges are against the opinion of the what was discussed, the CJI will not recommend such appointments to the government. So in 2014, this kind of taking over of judicial appointments by the collegium system in toto was looked at by the Modi government, which felt that the executive's involvement in judicial appointments should be restored. And they brought in the NJAC, and they said that it aimed at oversight, having an oversight over this, four judges and the CJI kind of collegium system, a transparency, and also to get a broader view on appointment of judges. Now, this was done by the proposed NJAC, the National Judicial Appointments Committee, was to be headed by the Chief Justice of India, who would be the ex-officio chairperson of the body. There will be two senior-most Supreme Court judges, ex-officio members, the Union Minister for Law and Justice, ex-officio member again, two eminent persons from civil society nominated by a committee consisting of the Prime Minister, the CJI, the Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha, and one of these two eminent persons had to be from the SC, ST, OBC minority or women. So this was kind of put together saying that we need to broad base, instead of just four judges and one CJI, we need to broad base this thing. We need to bring in the law minister. We need to bring in two members from outside, and one of whom has to be kind of from a marginalized sort of community. The bill was passed with near unanimity in both houses. I think, as I recall, eminent lawyer Ram Jethmalani, who's no longer with us, he was perhaps the lone voice who was not in favor of the bill and possibly was the only abstention that Mr. Dhankar referred to in his statement of March 25th. Now, after this bill was passed in 2015, a 5-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court struck down the NJAC by a 4-1 majority. The judgment held that judicial primacy in the appointments is a part of the basic structure doctrine and it cannot be altered. Now, in terms of legislation and where it remains, this is where the NJAC currently lies. Vice President Dhankar's intervention in Parliament are being seen as a way in which a revival of the NJAC through Parliament is being sought. There are some issues with regard to that. First of all, now, whether or not the government itself is ready to take on the judiciary again on this issue, especially in a situation where the judiciary has shown itself to be proactive in the Justice Verma case. After all, we wouldn't have had those videos of those burnt cash, wads of cash, etc., if the Supreme Court had not been very proactive about it. So if the Supreme Court shows that it's self-policing and therefore is capable of taking care of its own issues, will the government then move forward? Secondly, while earlier all political parties were more or less on board with the government, it is not entirely sure whether it will be the case now, since many opposition parties feel that the government wants to control all institutions in the constitutional framework of checks and balances. TMC MP Mahua Moitra's speech during a debate on the finance bill recently reflected that. Now, whatever the case, it was a week of unprecedented happenings, and largely the Justice Verma case is being viewed as a heuristic device to look at judicial accountability by the political class. Now, I hope this has dispelled some of the mist around the subject. This is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week.